Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 1 review series. And today I am going to be talking about Episode 9, Loyal Subjects, which I have just finished watching, and this episode was absolutely fantastic. You know, I'm still looking for a bad episode, have yet to find one. Every episode since this show started has been absolute top notch, and it continues to get better and better, and this episode was a fantastic continuation of the last one, and the big twist that we saw with Morgan Edge at the end really caught me off guard and really took me by surprise in a huge way. And there is a possibility of who he could really be, which I will talk about in a moment. And this show just continues to just keep knocking it out of the park. Tyler Hodgson is just incredible as Superman. Elizabeth Tulloch is just doing an awesome job as Lois Lane, and as I mentioned already, she's well on her way to becoming a definitive Lois in her own right. Everything about it was just great. I just loved it. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, and then we're going to talk about episode 9. So we've seen so far that Captain Luthor is now John Henry Irons, aka Steel. So we've also been seeing that Morgan Edge has been putting together his own army of superpowered people, giving them powers for Kryptonian. So he's basically building up his own army and signing up normal citizens for his leadership program, so to speak. And Lana Lang has been working with Lois in secret to try and learn more about what exactly Morgan Edge has been up to. And also we've seen Jordan has been going through his own story arc, trying to get to grips with his own superpowers. So there's been lots of stuff going on in this show, and in this episode in particular, we are basically seeing Jordan's powers spiraling out of control, and there's been like a side effect as well involving kryptonite which affects him. So there was a lot going on in this episode, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And you know, everything just is really building up to something big. Don't know what it is yet, but you can definitely see if you're watching this show that something big is going to happen very, very soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's going to be. So with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about episode 9, Loyal Subjects. So this episode starts with Lois, Clark and Chrissy trying to figure out what Morgan Edge has been up to, and what the Kryptonite X is tied to the candidates Lana has been rounding up for Morgan Edge's leadership program. We then see Edge asking Emily if she wants to become her best self, and Emily of course accepts the offer. Next we see that Lana is back to looking for candidates, and Lois wants to stop people from working with Edge and hopes that Clark's history in the town will help out, since Martha has always been helping people in the town for many years. At the Gazette we see Lana comes to see Lois and Chrissy. They question her on what's been going on with the leadership program, and she can only tell them that very general things. Lois tells Lana that she should take a break, but Lana of course is not having it. At the high school, Kyle tells John and Jordan that he really appreciates them being there for Sarah. She's talking to Jordan while Jonathan gets distracted by Tegan Wickham, the same pretty girl we saw in the last episode. We then see Clark runs into Emily at a diner where she tells him that Edge's program is helping her to keep a better disposition and a clearer mind, and encourages Clark to join up. Suddenly Clark hears a bank robbery in progress in Mexico and flies there to stop it. And then midway through we see his powers start frizzing out. He's knocked out for a moment but gets back up on his feet to finish the job, but flies home clearly disturbed. Now this was actually a really good scene, because when Superman bursts in and breaks up the robbery, it was like I was reading a comic book. You know, the way everything just slows down, and he pushes one guy that side and pushes the other on the other side, and then just shoulder barges into the other. I really, really like that scene, and the budget in this show, and especially in these sequences, it's just off the charts, and it really shows that when you have a higher budget, it makes a big difference for the show. Back at the newspaper, Chrissy tells Lois about a new ad that Edge is putting in the paper, looking for twice as many candidates for his program. We then see Lois, in typical Lois Lane fashion, charges into the meeting and tells people that Edge is planning to put Kryptonian powers and consciousness into the people of Smallville. He tells her nobody will believe her, and she tells him they won't publish his ad, but that doesn't concern him very much. He encourages her to use her signal device to call in Superman, saying it's risky knowing that he's Kryptonian, and that he's excited to find out who he would side with when the time comes. At home, Clark is icing down some bruises from gunshots when Lois comes in to let him know what's been going on, and she freaks out at the image of Clark covered in gashes and burns from where he was shot. They figure out it's likely from the gas Rossetti hit him with, and Lois decides to call her dad General Sam Lane. At the school, Jordan and Sarah are flirting at the piano when he starts sneezing, and he has his hands covered in ice. As his freeze breath has started to take hold, he rushes out the door, leaving her hurt and very confused. Before he can get out of the school, Clark comes to pick him up and tells him that they have to talk to the DoD about the effects of this synthetic kryptonite toxin. At the farm, Clark explains to Jordan that the kryptonite weapon apparently gave Clark a communicable illness. Sam tells Lois he's working on a cure. At the school, Jonathan stops to see Sarah, who asks where Jordan is and tells John about what happened. John promises to find him, and Sarah is worried because she's the first musical act up in the concert. At work, Lana bumps into Emily and chats her up a bit, and Leslie comes to grab Lana and gives her to Edge's office to be pitched in the same offer that was made to Emily. At the fortress, we see Jor-El's hologram tell Clark they need to get the kryptonite out of Jordan's lungs, but they'll have to burn it out with intense heat. Now, this scene was quite interesting because Jordan sneezes and ice comes out. It's kind of like a kryptonite flu. It's like all the liquids and fluids was built up in his chest. And the way they burned it out, because I was fully expecting Clark to use his heat vision to burn it out of him, but actually they used the entire fortress, so I thought that was quite good. Clark consoles Jordan and holds him while the procedure happens. Back at home, John joins the family and Jordan is getting sicker by the moment. Unable to wait for Sam anymore, Clark flies Jordan to the fortress. Lois tells Sam that she can't trust him around her husband or her sons anymore, so he needs her to get out of her life when all of this is over. Back at the farm, Jonathan tries to help Lois feel better about all the danger the kids have been in since Jordan's powers have started to manifest. He assures her that Clark will be able to help Jordan. And at school, Sarah can't find Jordan at showtime, and Lana is sitting there with Kyle and Emily, and Kyle sneaks backstage to help support her when she's ready to give up. Back at the Kent farm, Jonathan tells off his grandfather, calling him a coward for failing to have faith in Clark. Halfway through her daughter's performance, Emily suddenly hears something and gets up to leave, leaving Lana and Sarah very confused. Kyle offers to follow her to see what's wrong, and Edge tells Leslie that with Superman weakened, he has activated some of their subjects to take down Lois. At the fortress, Clark finishes Jordan's Kryptonian physical therapy. Back at the farm, Lois gets a call from Lana warning her that Emily is acting very strange. And there's a knock at the door, and it's Emily standing there with another subject, both of whom have the heat vision powered angry red eyes, and they charge at Lois and steal her signal device. But Sam Lane bursts in with kryptonite gas grenades and keeps them occupied while Lois and Jonathan get to the barn where John has squirreled away some of John Henry's weapons. Kyle comes to the barn where he asks what's going on, and Lois tells him Edge sent people to kill them. Kyle powers up and the two knock out Sam and rush to the barn. At the fortress, Clark hears something and flies into the air with Jordan just moments after a heart-to-heart about the fact that Jordan didn't ask for any of what's happening to him. Through a combination of John Henry's weapons, Sam's, and a timely appearance by Superman, the trio are turned away. Sam tells Lois that he's going to prioritise Smallville and the family now, and she tells him good because she's worried that the war John Henry was talking about is coming. We then see the boys have a chat about what's going on, and Jordan worries that Sam will tell Sarah everything. He calls her to try and get ahead of it, but she doesn't take the call, and Kyle comes home to tell Lana that he can't remember anything that happened after he left the recital. Lana convinces him to admit that he accepted Morgan Edge's offer. While she knows that's bad, Lana still isn't 100% in the know of how exactly it really is. We then see Chrissy calls Lois, revealing that her research indicates that Leslie and the hotel attacker from the pilot were both originally from Smallville, meaning that it's a long-term exposure to Kryptonite X that makes Smallville's residents receptive to the effects of Kryptonite. Now, this was quite interesting because Clark mentions that when he landed on Earth there was a meteor shower, and I couldn't help but flash back to Smallville where people in Smallville would get affected by the meteor rocks and they would get powers. So it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. I thought that was a nice little nod to Smallville, the show. Clark hears the signal device and flies out to see who's paging him, and he flies out into the desert, and we see Edge all dressed in black. And in the closing moments of the episode, Edge is now wearing a super black power suit and reveals that he has powers, and unlike his lab rats, he doesn't have powers gifted to him by Kryptonite X, and says that I've been here developing my powers after I've arrived, and he's had them just as long as Clark has, and he refers to Clark as his brother. And then the episode leaves us on a cliffhanger, and that comes to the end of my review. Overall, excellent episode. Really enjoyed this one a lot. The twist at the end with Morgan Edge revealing himself to have powers, didn't see that coming. There is a possibility, and I'm only saying this, I could be wrong, there is a possibility that Morgan Edge could be Hell. Now, for those of you who probably don't know that name, Hell is kind of like this big superpowered Brody-like figure from the recent Superman comic books of the New 52 run. So it's possible that Morgan Edge is Hell, or at least a version of that character. So I'm really looking forward to know how exactly Morgan Edge has got superpowers and how he's been on Earth just as long as Superman has. But overall, fantastic episode, and really looking forward to seeing what happens next. So that's going to be it for me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What's your thoughts on Morgan Edge recruiting citizens on his leadership program and building up his Kryptonian army? Could this actually lead to a war that John Henry Irons was referring to? And also, what about the big twist reveal of Morgan Edge having superpowers? Could he be Hell? Or could he be someone completely different? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 1 review series, where I am going to be talking about Episode 10, which I am very much looking forward to talking about, especially after the way this episode ended. So make sure you don't miss that. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe, and once again, thanks for listening.